There once was a man, a wealthy farmer, who had two sons. He loved them deeply and provided everything they needed. His land was fruitful, his workers were loyal, and his home was a place of warmth, peace, and security. It was the kind of life many would dream of, but not everyone sees the beauty in what they have. The younger son, full of energy and ambition, wanted more. Life on the farm felt too slow, too predictable. He wanted freedom, adventure, excitement, and so, one day, he made a bold decision, one that would change everything.
Father, I've been thinking. I want my share of the inheritance. Give me what's mine now, so I can go live my life the way I want.
Now, in that culture, asking for your inheritance early was like saying, I don't want to wait for you to die. I want what's mine now. It was a slap in the face, deeply disrespectful, but the father, he didn't yell, he didn't scold, he didn't disown his son. He simply nodded and divided the inheritance between his two sons. And just like that, the younger son was gone, leaving behind the home that loved him, chasing after a life he thought would bring him happiness. At first, life was everything he imagined. He traveled to a far-off country, living recklessly. He spent his money on parties, expensive clothes, and wild living. He was the life of the party, surrounded by people who seemed like friends. But those kinds of friends don't stick around when the money runs out. And run out it did. Every last coin. To make things worse, a famine struck the land. Food was scarce, and prices skyrocketed. He had nothing. No food, no friends, no one to turn to. Desperate for survival, he took the only job he could find, feeding pigs. Now, for a young Jewish man, this was the lowest of the low. Pigs were considered unclean, and here he was, living in their filth. So hungry, he wished he could eat their food. It was here, in this rock-bottom moment, that the younger son finally came to his senses.
What am I doing? Even the hired servants in my father's house have more than enough food, and here I am starving to death. I'll go back to my father. I'll tell him, Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Just make me one of your servants.
Little did the younger son know, his father had never stopped watching the road, waiting, hoping, praying that one day his son would return. And when the father saw him dirty, broken, and walking toward home, he didn't hesitate. The father ran to him. In those days, running wasn't something dignified men did, but this father didn't care. His son was home.
Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son.
Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet, and prepare the fattened calf. We're having a feast tonight. For my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.
What's going on? Your brother has come home, and your father is throwing a feast to celebrate.
Come, celebrate with us. Your brother is home.
All these years, I've worked for you. I've obeyed you. I never left, but you've never thrown a feast for me. And now, after everything he's done, you celebrate him?
My son, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate. Your brother was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.
The story of the prodigal son is a story about grace. The younger son didn't deserve forgiveness. He had made his bed and was ready to lie in it. But the father, he didn't just forgive. He restored his son fully, treating him as if he had never left. And the older brother, his story reminds us not to let pride or self-righteousness blind us to God's grace for others. Whether you've wandered far from home or stayed close but grown bitter, the Father's love is the same. He's waiting, arms open wide, ready to welcome you home. No matter how lost you feel, you are never too far gone for God's grace.